Investigators are using cell phones to trace overdose deaths back to the dealers. Text messages often show the last person who had a conversation with a buyer. Yesterday, we told you about Jessica Lyday, who overdosed and died in 2015. WBIR 10 News reporter Mark Salinger shows us what led investigators to an out-of-town drug dealer.
This is the final text message that Justin Lee sent to Jessica Lyday the morning after he provided the heroin that killed her. Text messages and other clues found in cell phones led investigators to someone even higher up the chain who shared responsibility for her death. It took Engine 20 from the Knoxville Fire Department less than 5 minutes to respond when the call came in.
When somebody has stopped breathing, they have a limited amount of time before they start losing cells.
J.P. Plant and Doug Gwaltney were the first to arrive at Jessica Lyday's West Hills home that summer morning in 2015.
When you are responding and you walk into somebody's house, you're thinking of all of the steps you need to take to save this person's life.
On this day, there was nothing they could do.
It was pretty evident that Miss Lyday had most likely died from a drug overdose.
Jessica's cell phone showed she had bought the heroin from her ex-boyfriend, Justin Lee. Investigator Philip Jinks with the Knoxville Police Department knew that wasn't the full story. KPD asked us to conceal Jinks' identity because of a case he is currently working on.
After I interviewed Justin at his home, I took possession of his phone, and while I was in possession of his phone, the phone received a text message from a contact named Slim.
As Jessica and Justin met at the Walgreens to hand off money the night she overdosed, Justin set up a meeting with a contact named Slim.
After receiving the text message from Jessica that she had come into some money and was looking to purchase heroin, Justin immediately contacted Slim.
Lee agreed to help police buy more drugs from Slim. Jinks recorded the call.
Hello? Hey, I have my mom's put in the mailbox, okay? I'm about to have to go to the hospital, so whenever you come by, whatever, just call my phone, whatever, and let it ring once or something, and then...
Slim delivered more heroin to Justin Lee's mailbox. This time, KPD was waiting.
There was a short foot pursuit, and he was taken into custody.
Inside Slim's home, they found $40,000 worth of cash, a firearm, and more of the drugs that killed Jessica Lyday. Everything lying right next to children's toys.
One of the children indicated that there was a handgun hidden between the mattress and box springs.
So who was Slim?
We learned that the source of the heroin was a gentleman by the name of Kenyon DeMario Reynolds. He was actually living under an alias in Knoxville. He was wanted from another state.
Reynolds came from Atlanta. He brought his drugs with him.
We're only 3.5 hours north of Atlanta. Atlanta is a major drug hub for this part of the country.
Reynolds is now behind bars at the Northwest Correctional Complex in Tiptonville. He'll be there for at least 3 decades. Jessica Lyday loved to sing, especially about her home in East Tennessee.
She didn't have a mean bone in her body. Big old heart.
Still mourning the loss of her only daughter, her mom holds the drawings, journal entries, and notes she left behind closer than ever. A handful of memories from a lifetime of love.
Make the time count every day that you have with that person that you love, because it's never long enough.
Jessica Lyday now rests at her family farm in Middle Tennessee. While she died, the investigation may have led to other lives being saved.
The one person that has lost their life here obtained those drugs from somewhere. If you follow those up the chain, you get into people that are making a living by distributing drugs in our community and preying upon those who are the users.
If the text messages were clues to solving her case, they're also heartbreaking reminders of just how fragile life is. Last year, investigators in Knox County used this technique of tracing an overdose to charge 11 drug dealers with murder. Robin and John.
Mark Salinger, thank you.